Hebrewesses of the Bible. I would like to share something with you. The letter Aleph represents strength, and the letter Bet represents home. If you put these two together, you get the strength of the home. Who is the strength of the home? It is the Father. But if you add a yod, which represents a hand, this is what it looks like. When a hand touches something, it symbolizes possession. And so when a hand is touching the man of the house, it is saying, my Father. You can see this visually now, but modern Hebrew actually obscures the meaning visually. If you look at ancient Hebrew, which is written in a pictorial script, you can understand and see clearly the meaning of the word. Aleph really is an image of an ox, and because they use oxen to thresh the floor when they put wheat and they needed it to crush it, they used the oxens, which they viewed as strong. That's why it represents strength, because the oxen of their time did very strong work. Now, Bet is truly an image of a tent. This is where the ancient people lived in, not in the palaces or homes that we have today, the architectural beauties of centuries past, but actually they lived in tents. And so to them, a tent was a home. And Yod, as I explained earlier, was a hand. Now, this is so beautiful. When someone was referring to their father, of course they would say Avi, my father, but it would be rare for a Hebrew child to say, my father. It's a little formal. If you remember, Elisha used my father as an idiom when he saw Elijah pass from this realm to the next. He said, my father, the horses and the chariot. It was almost as equivalent as saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm witnessing this great wonder. But that's a tangent. Back to my father. So if you've been watching The Chosen, of course, you have seen Yeshua call his father and his mother Abba and Ima, and Yeshua was really a forerunner of bringing things that were not only shocking at the time, but challenging the status quo. And of course, we can say that today, witnessing his ministry translated in English. Of course, if we understood the Aramaic culture and could read the text in that light, we would see much more going on when he expresses to his disciples how to read the model prayer. Now, many of us have committed the model prayer to memory, and we start off with the first line of the model prayer, which many people term as the Lord's Prayer, and it's not the Lord's Prayer, it's the prayer that the Lord taught the disciples to recite as often as they prayed. It is approaching God as a unit, a body, a group of people together. But in English, it's two words, our Father. But in Aramaic, it's Abba. Now, that one word, to start off the model prayer with that one word, was controversial in Yeshua's time. We don't understand this, of course, being Americans and reading that prayer. We're like, yes, we get in through the door of Jesus to the Father, our Father. But there's so much more going on. First, the contemporaries of his time understood that the rabbis, such a religious unit, only prayed for their people, only prayed for their nation, only prayed for themselves. They would never say our Father. They would approach the Lord as the God of the Hebrews, the God of their people, the God of themselves. So they would never see this God as a global God, even though he created all things. And as part of the Torah, it's written in there that God created the heavens and the earth and everything in it. Even though that's there, they still approach God as their own personal God. And in a sense, rightfully so, because God has chosen the Hebrews to be his special treasure and then opened it up to the other nations after Jesus' death and a little bit before his death too, because a lot of Gentile women, if you will, approached him, and he did miracles in their lives too. He had controversial conversations with them, which we will get to at a later time. But to start off saying Abba, our Father, already breaks the tradition that the Hebrew rabbis had of only praying to their God for themselves. Now Jesus is saying the Father can be accessed by anyone, whether they're Hebrew or not. He can be accessed by any nation. So that was groundbreaking, that was cutting edge, that was controversial. The next controversial thing that I discovered was that saying Abba so in the culture of the Hebrews and Middle Eastern culture up to today, teach their children one word first before any other words. And the word that they teach their child is Abba. Now remember, this is from Hebraic times up until today, that they still teach their children. The first word is to say Abba, my Father. They teach a child to say that, and I'm sure Ima is not too far behind. So in teaching disciples to approach God, the creator of all things we know and see, as Abba, is to say we must approach him as a child, not an adult, not with ostentation, not with all this knowledge, not with arrogance and education, which all the Pharisees and Sadducees did carry these spirits when they approached God and the laws and the traditions and the people. Jesus, with one word in Aramaic, Abba, broke down that stereotype, broke down that spirit, broke down that position, and said that the first thing you must do when you pray to God, when you pray to the creator of the universe, when you pray to the Father, is to approach him as a child, is to say, my Father, Abba. It's the same with mother. Aleph, representing strength, is coupled with mem. Now mem could represent many things. It is a picture in the ancient Hebraic as water. It's a picture of a few ripples, or the tide, or the shape of water in the sea. This sea can represent so many things. When you go out to sea, there's a spirit of uncertainty there. So it gives off the connotation of something being unknown, because you never know what's below the water and you never know what's going to happen above the water. The weather may change, or a great fish may swim to the surface. One never knows. So that mem came to represent the unknown. It also represents blood flowing through man, Adam, inherent meaning of Adam being taken from the ground and being added water and blood, since we're made of at least 70% water, making up man. It also means chaos, because it's something you can't control. Try to hold water, grasp water, keep water. You need a container for water, and if that container is pierced or split or opened, it just runs out. You cannot control the flow of water unless you place rocks strategically in certain places, and then you can control the type of flow and the way it flows and where it flows. But that takes a skilled person, and it can be difficult. You cannot control it with your bare hands. So Mem comes to represent chaos, which is saying a lot when you call a woman Im. A lot of things can be said there. Strength added to water. Again, if you add a yod to Im, you get Imi, which is my mother.